wailed outside the Golden Terrace restaurant as Amara stood in the center of the dining room, tears streaming down her face. In her trembling hands, she held a black leather briefcase containing $10,000 in crisp bills. "Miss, we need you to come with us," the officer said, his hand moving toward his handcuffs. The restaurant owner, Mr. Okonkwo, pointed an accusing finger at her. "I knew she stole it. A poor waitress like her suddenly finding all this money. She must have stolen it from that businessman." The other waitresses whispered behind their hands. The customers stared. Amara's world was crumbling, and the briefcase that was supposed to change her life was about to destroy it. If powerful stories like this move you, please hit subscribe. And tell us where you're watching from. I love seeing our global family in the comments. All right, back to how this nightmare began. 3 weeks earlier, Amara Akafer woke before dawn in the small room she shared with her younger sister, Kioma, in the crowded neighborhood of Surular, Lagos. The concrete walls were cracked, and the single window barely let in light. But Amara kept the space spotless, just as her mother had taught her before she passed away 5 years ago. "Sister, you're leaving already," Kioma mumbled from her sleeping mat, rubbing her eyes. "Go back to sleep," Amara whispered, adjusting her waitress uniform in the small mirror. "I need to get to work early. Mr. Okonkwo doesn't like lateness." Kioma sat up. At 16, she was supposed to be in her final year of secondary school. But they couldn't afford the fees. That reality weighed on Amara every single day. "When I finish secondary school, I'll help you," Kioma said softly. Amara smiled, though her heart ached. "You will finish, I promise you. Now sleep." She stepped out into the Lagos morning. The city was already stirring to life. The smell of akara frying in palm oil filled the air. Traders were setting up their stalls. Okada riders revved their motorcycles, ready for another day of navigating the chaotic streets. Amara walked the 40 minutes to Victoria Island, where the Golden Terrace restaurant stood. It was an upscale establishment where politicians, businessmen, and the wealthy elite came to dine. Amara had worked there for 3 years, serving people who spent more on a single meal than she earned in a month. She didn't mind serving them. What she minded was that no matter how hard she worked, she could barely survive. After paying rent, feeding herself and Kioma, and sending money to their elderly aunt in their village, nothing remained. Her dreams of opening a small restaurant of her own seemed impossible. Her dream of sending Kioma to university felt like a cruel joke. "Amara, table 6 needs water," Mr. Okonkwo barked as soon as she walked in. "Yes, sir," she responded, tying her apron quickly. The morning rush began. Amara moved between tables with practiced grace, balancing trays, remembering orders, smiling even when customers were rude. She had learned to make herself invisible, to serve without being seen. "You're a good worker," old Mama Ngozi, the head cook, told her during a brief break. "But you look tired, my daughter. Your eyes carry too much worry for someone so young." "I'm fine, Mama." "My grandmother used to say, 'The sun that melts the wax also hardens the clay.' Your hardships will either break you or make you stronger. Which will you choose?" Amara didn't have an answer. It happened on a Tuesday evening during the dinner service. A man had been sitting at table 12 for over 2 hours. He was well-dressed in an expensive agbada, with gray hair and the confident air of someone used to wealth. He'd ordered generously and tipped Amara 20%, which was rare. "Thank you for the excellent service," he'd said warmly before leaving. Amara cleared his table, collecting plates and glasses. As she wiped down the surface, she noticed something underneath the chair. A black leather briefcase. Someone left a bag. She called out to the other waitresses. "Check if there's identification inside," Mr. Okonkwo said, barely looking up from the register. Amara picked up the briefcase. It was heavy. She carried it to the back room and opened it. Her breath caught in her throat. Money, stacks and stacks of crisp Naira notes. More money than she had ever seen in her life. Her hands shook as she stared at it, unable to process what she was seeing. "What's taking so long?" Mr. Okonkwo appeared in the doorway. Amara quickly closed the briefcase. There's money inside, sir. A lot of money. Mr. Okonkwo's eyes widened. He rushed over and opened the briefcase again. He let out a low whistle. This must be at least $10,000 converted to Naira, he said slowly. Maybe more. The other waitresses crowded around, gasping and whispering. Who does it belong to? Someone asked. The man at table 12, Amara said. He was here for dinner. Did he leave a phone number, a business card? Amara searched the briefcase carefully. There was nothing. No identification, no papers, no phone number, just money. Mr. Okonkwo's expression changed. She saw something calculating enter his eyes. Well, he said slowly, if there's no identification and the man doesn't come back, this money is unclaimed property. We should report it to the police, Amara said immediately. The police? Mr. Okonkwo laughed harshly. You want to hand this money to the police. They'll pocket it faster than a hawk catches a chick. But it's not ours. Listen to me, girl. You found this money. You could keep it. Change your life. How much do I pay you? 30,000 Naira a month. This is more than you'll make in 10 years. The words hung in the air like smoke. 10 years of salary, in one briefcase. Amara's mind raced. She thought of Kioma's school fees, the leaking roof in their room, the medicine their aunt needed, the restaurant she dreamed of opening, all of it possible with this money. Or, Mr. Okonkwo continued, his voice dropping, we could split it, 50-50. You take $5,000, I take 5,000. No one needs to know. The other waitresses watched with hungry eyes. What do you think happened to that businessman? One of them said. Why would he leave so much money behind and not come back? Maybe he's a criminal. Maybe it's dirty money. Exactly, Mr. Okonkwo said. If it's dirty money, we'd actually be doing the world a service by keeping it. Amara looked at the briefcase. Her heart pounded. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was wrong. But another part, the desperate part, whispered that this was her chance, her one opportunity to escape poverty. She thought of her mother's last words. Amara, always do what is right, even when it is hard. She closed her eyes. No, she said quietly. I need to find the owner. Mr. Okonkwo's face darkened. You're making a mistake. Maybe, Amara said, but it's my mistake to make. Maybe, Amara said, but it's my mistake to make. She took the briefcase home that night. Kioma stared at the money with wide eyes. Sister, this is a fortune. It's not ours. But if you can't find the owner. I will find him, Amara said firmly. She lay awake all night, the briefcase beside her bed. The temptation was like a physical weight on her chest. She could solve every problem in her life with this money. She could change everything. But she couldn't sleep. The next morning, she went to the police station. The officer on duty barely looked up. Someone left money at the restaurant where I work, she explained. I need to file a report. How much money? About $10,000. The officer's head snapped up. His eyes gleamed with sudden interest. $10,000. You brought it with you. Something in his tone made Amara's skin crawl. No, it's somewhere safe. Where do you work? The Golden Terrace restaurant. Leave your information. If someone reports it missing, we'll contact you. Amara gave her details, but as she walked out, she overheard the officer making a phone call. Yes, there's a situation you might want to know about. Her instincts screamed at her. The police couldn't be trusted with this. She tried a different approach. She returned to the restaurant and looked through the reservation book. The man had made a reservation under the name Dr. Emeka Okoro. She searched online but found dozens of men with that name. Days passed, then a week. The briefcase sat in her room like a ticking bomb. Every time she opened it, the temptation grew stronger. Kioma stopped asking questions, but Amara saw the hope in her sister's eyes. Why are you torturing yourself? Kioma finally said. You've tried to find him. If he hasn't come looking for his money by now, maybe he doesn't want it. Or maybe he doesn't know where he lost it, Amara countered. But doubt crept in. What if Kioma was right? The first twist. On the 10th day, Amara made a decision. She would use a small portion of the money for Kioma's school fees, just enough to get her sister back to school. She would pay it back somehow when she found the owner. She counted out 200,000 naira. Her hands shook as she put it in an envelope. That afternoon, she went to Kioma's school to pay the fees. As she walked back home, a black car pulled up beside her. Two men in suits stepped out. Amara Akefer, one of them said. Her blood ran cold. Yes. We're from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. We need to ask you some questions about money found at the Golden Terrace restaurant. I reported it to the police. We know, and the police reported it to us. We're investigating a case of money laundering. That money you found is evidence in a criminal investigation. Amara's world tilted. Criminal investigation. The man who left that briefcase is suspected of fraud. That money was stolen from investors. We need you to hand it over immediately. But I've been trying to find the owner. Miss Akafer, withholding evidence in a criminal investigation is a serious crime. Where is the money? Fear choked her. She'd been so focused on doing the right thing that she hadn't considered she might be caught in the middle of something dangerous. It's at my home. Take us there. They drove her back to Surroler. Her neighbors watched with suspicious eyes as she led the men to her room. Kioma was there, doing homework. Sister, Kioma's voice was frightened. It's okay, Amara said, though her voice shook. She retrieved the briefcase from under her bed and handed it to the men. One of them opened it and began counting the money. There's money missing, he said sharply. There should be $10,000 here. Where's the rest? I used some for my sister's school fees, but I was going to pay it back. You stole from evidence in a criminal investigation. No, I didn't steal. I was trying to do the right thing. The men exchanged looks. You'll need to come to our office for questioning. Amara's legs nearly gave out. Am I being arrested? Not yet, but that depends on your cooperation. At the EFCC office, Amara sat in a cold interrogation room. She told them everything. How she'd found the briefcase. How she'd tried to find the owner. How she'd reported it to the police. How she'd only used a small portion for her sister's education. The officer, taking her statement, listened without expression. Miss Akafer, do you know why that man left the briefcase at the restaurant? No, sir. He left it deliberately, as a test. Amara's heart stopped. A test. Dr. Emeka Okoro is one of the wealthiest philanthropists in Nigeria. He's been traveling around Lagos, deliberately leaving money in different establishments to see what people will do. It's an experiment in human honesty. Amara couldn't breathe. An experiment. Most people who found the money kept it. Restaurant owners, security guards, even police officers. You're one of the few who actually tried to return it. In fact, you're the only one who reported it to the police and tried to find the owner instead of simply keeping it. Tears filled Amara's eyes. Then, why did you say he was being investigated for fraud? We didn't. We said the money was connected to an investigation. We were testing you too, to see if you'd change your story or try to hide anything. Rage and relief flooded through Amara in equal measure. You mean all of this was a test? Yes, and Miss Akafer, you passed. The door opened. A familiar man walked in, the gray-haired businessman from table 12. Dr. Emeka Okoro smiled at her gently. Hello, Amara. Amara stood up so fast her chair scraped across the floor. You're not a criminal. No, my dear, I'm sorry for the deception. Dr. Okoro sat down across from her. Let me explain. 5 years ago, I lost my wife to a preventable illness because we couldn't get proper medical care in time. I was a poor man then. After she died, I built a business from nothing. I became successful, very successful. His eyes grew distant with memory. But success changed me. I became cynical. I stopped believing in human goodness. I saw only corruption and greed everywhere. I decided to test that theory. I've been conducting this experiment for 6 months, leaving money in places and seeing what people do. That's cruel, Amara said quietly. Perhaps, but it's also revealing. Out of 23 times I've left money somewhere, only 3 times did someone try to return it. And you, Amara, you went further than anyone. You reported it to the police even knowing they might be corrupt. You searched for me. You guarded that money for days even though you're struggling. You only took money for your sister's education, and you plan to pay it back. He leaned forward. You reminded me that good people still exist. That poverty doesn't always corrupt. That integrity is real. Amara wiped her tears. So what happens now? Do I go to jail for using some of the money? Jail, Dr. Okoro laughed. No, my dear, you get rewarded. Rewarded, Amara repeated blankly. Dr. Okoro pulled out a folder. I've been researching you since you found the money. I know about your situation, your sister's education, your mother's death, your dream of opening a restaurant, your 3 years of loyal service at the Golden Terrace despite poor pay and difficult conditions. Amara's cheeks burned. You investigated me. I did, and here's what I want to offer you. First, the $10,000 in that briefcase is yours, all of it, including the money you already spent on your sister's education. Amara's mouth fell open. What? Second, I want to fund your restaurant. Fully. Location, equipment, initial capital, everything. In exchange, you'll hire people from struggling backgrounds just like you. You'll give them fair wages and opportunities. You'll prove that success and integrity can coexist. Amara couldn't speak. This couldn't be real. Third, I'm establishing a scholarship fund in my late wife's name. Your sister will receive a full scholarship through university, all expenses paid. Tears streamed down Amara's face. Why me? Because you showed me something I'd forgotten. You showed me that the strength of our character is tested not when we have plenty, but when we have nothing. You had every reason to keep that money, every justification. But you didn't. That kind of integrity is rare and precious. Dr. Okoro stood up. But I need to know something, Amara. Why? Why did you try so hard to return money that could have changed your life? Amara thought of her mother. She thought of all the nights she'd gone hungry so Kioma could eat. She thought of the weight she'd carried for years. My mother used to say that wealth built on lies will crumble like a house built on sand. But wealth built on truth stands forever. I didn't want to build my life on something that wasn't mine, even if it meant staying poor a little longer. Dr. Okoro smiled. Your mother was a wise woman. But as Amara left the EFCC office, her phone rang. It was Kioma, and she was crying. Sister, Mr. Okonkwo came to our house. He's saying you stole money from the restaurant. He called the real police. Sister, what do I do? Amara's blood froze. What? Dr. Okoro, who was walking out with her, heard her conversation. His expression darkened. What's wrong? Amara explained in a rush. Dr. Okoro's jaw clenched. That greedy fool. When you refused to split the money with him, he decided to get revenge. He's reporting you for theft to claim the money himself. They rushed to Suruler. By the time they arrived, the police were already there. So were neighbors. So was Mr. Okonkwo, telling everyone who would listen that Amara had stolen money from a customer. She's a thief. I trusted her and she betrayed that trust. This was the moment from the beginning. The police, the accusations, the briefcase in Amara's hands, her world crumbling. Miss, we need you to come with us, the officer said. Amara opened her mouth to defend herself, but Dr. Okoro stepped forward. Officers, I'm Dr. Emeka Okoro. That briefcase belongs to me. Mr. Okonkwo's face paled. You're the businessman from that night. Yes, and this young woman didn't steal anything. She found my property and spent 10 days trying to return it to me. She reported it to the police. She guarded it carefully. She is not a thief. She's one of the most honest people I've ever met. But she had $10,000, Mr. Okonkwo sputtered. How could a poor waitress? The money is mine to give to whomever I choose, Dr. Okoro said coldly. And I've chosen to give it to Amara as a reward for her integrity. the same integrity you clearly lack." He turned to the officers. "This man filed a false police report. He attempted to fraudulently claim my property. I want to press charges." Now it was Mr. Okonkwo's turn to panic. "Wait, I didn't mean, I was just trying to protect." "You were trying to profit from someone else's honesty," Dr. Okoro said. "There's a proverb. A person who tries to catch a bird by shaking the tree will end up catching the bird's droppings. You tried to shake Amara down, and now you'll face the consequences." The police escorted Mr. Okonkwo away, still protesting. The neighbors who had gathered began to murmur with understanding. Kioma ran to Amara and hugged her tightly. "Sister, I was so scared." I know, but it's over now." Mama Ngozi, who had come when she heard about the commotion, approached Amara. Tears shone in her old eyes. "You see, the sun that melts the wax also hardens the clay. This trial has shown everyone what you're made of." 6 months later, Amara stood in front of a beautiful restaurant in Yaba, Lagos. The sign read, "Blessing's Place," named after her mother. The restaurant was bright and welcoming, with colorful African art on the walls and the smell of jollof rice and egusi soup wafting from the kitchen. She'd hired 5 staff members, all from difficult backgrounds, all given fair wages and respect. Kioma was back in school, thriving, already talking about studying business management at university. Their elderly aunt had received medical treatment and was doing better. And Amara had discovered something unexpected. Success felt sweeter because it came from doing the right thing. Dr. Okoro came for the grand opening. He brought many of his wealthy friends who became regular customers. But more importantly, he brought his philosophy that businesses built on integrity could thrive. "You know," he told Amara during the opening celebration, "I conducted that experiment because I'd lost faith. I'd forgotten that my own success started with people who showed me kindness when I had nothing. You reminded me of who I used to be, who I want to be again." "My mother used to say that goodness planted in the soil of hardship grows the strongest roots," Amara replied. As the evening wore on, customers filled every table. Laughter and conversation filled the air. Amara watched from the kitchen, her heart full. One of her waitresses, a young woman named Blessing, approached her. "Madam Amara, there's a customer asking for you." Amara went to the table. A man sat there, dressed simply, with kind eyes. "I heard about this restaurant," he said. "I heard about the owner who returned $10,000 instead of keeping it. I had to see for myself if such a person really exists." Amara smiled. "I exist, and I'm not special. I just did what my mother taught me." "What was that?" "That real wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in character. And character is what remains when everything else is taken away." The man nodded slowly. "Your mother was wise. I'd like to invest in your restaurant if you'd let me. I believe in supporting businesses built on the right foundation." As Amara spoke with him about possibilities, she looked around. Her restaurant. She saw Kioma helping to serve customers during her school break, saw her staff working with dignity and pride, saw Dr. Okoro at a corner table mentoring a young entrepreneur. She thought about that moment 10 days into finding the briefcase, when she'd been so tempted to keep the money. How different her life would be now if she'd made that choice. She would have had $10,000, but she would have lost herself. Instead, she had something more valuable. She had a business built on truth. She had relationships built on trust. She had integrity that couldn't be bought or sold. Mama Ngozi visited often, always bringing wisdom from the old ways. One evening, she sat with Amara after closing time. "You remember what I told you?" the old woman asked. "About the sun and the wax and the clay." "Yes, Mama. The trials you faced, the poverty, the temptation, the accusations, they didn't happen to break you. They happened to reveal what you were made of. And now everyone can see you are clay hardened by the sun. You are strong." Amara squeezed her hand. "Thank you, Mama, for believing in me." "I didn't make you strong, child. I just recognized what was already there." As Mama Ngozi left, Amara locked up the restaurant and walked home through the Lagos evening. The city lights twinkled like stars brought down to earth. Street vendors called out their wares. Music drifted from nearby homes. She thought about how close she'd come to ruining her life for money. How the hardest choice had become the greatest blessing. Her phone buzzed, a text from Dr. Okoro. "Proud of you, Amara, your mother would be too." She smiled and typed back, "Thank you for giving me a chance to prove who I am." But as she walked, she realized something. Dr. Okoro hadn't given her anything she didn't already have. The integrity was already there. The strength was already there. The character was already there. The briefcase had simply been an opportunity to show it. And in the end, that was the greatest gift of all. The chance to discover that she was stronger than she ever knew, more honest than was convenient, and more deserving of success than she'd ever believed. Because true wealth isn't found in a briefcase left behind by a billionaire. True wealth is found in the choices we make when no one is watching, in the integrity we maintain when it costs us everything, and in the courage to do what's right even when it's hard. Amara had found that wealth. And unlike money, no one could ever take it away. As my grandmother used to say, "The goat that eats the farmer's yam may eat well for a day, but the goat that waits to be fed eats well for a lifetime." Integrity may cost you in the moment, but it feeds you forever. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, kindly like, comment, and subscribe for more meaningful content.